Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about how to begin studying foreign language. Okay. I've received far too many emails, too many messages from people asking me and telling me that they don't know how to begin a language. They don't know how to construct sentences. They've been studying language for years, but don't know how to get proficient in language. Okay. So I believe this video will be beneficial for many people. It will be beneficial for children, for anyone at any age, elderly. It doesn't matter. Okay, this will work for anyone. So the first thing you want to do, I've had a strong emphasis on in the previous videos, is resources. Okay, you want to make sure you get your resources. That's so important. Without resources, I should say adequate resources at that, not just any resource, but adequate resources. Without those, it's going to be pretty difficult to have some progression, fast progression in a foreign language. So you're going to make sure you get your resources. Now, normally when I learn a language, I use Teach Yourself. Okay, this is like my Bulgarian Teach Yourself. I just had this here just for example. So I use Teach Yourself. I use that, and I also get a phrase book. I will explain to you guys what the phrase books are for. Okay, as we get further into this video. So I use Teach Yourself. I use Pimsleur also for pronunciation. For pronunciation, listening, whatnot. Get the feel of how things sound and how it's being pronounced. And Teach Yourself, the phrase book, and I use Pimsleur. And what else? That's pretty much it. So definitely get your resources. That's the first thing. Get your resources. All right. Now the second thing is okay, that's the second thing. Same thing as finding places to practice. I don't know if you guys can see that. Second thing is finding places to practice. Alright, and I've talked about this in the past as well. What you want to do, find some chat rooms, okay? Find chat rooms, forums. Chat rooms and forums. They're going to be very, very useful. Okay, very, very useful, because the chat rooms, pretty much, it's like real life. You're going to go there and practice all the stuff you've learned, and it helps you retain the things you've learned through, just by practicing over and over and over. Forums, you can use forums for writing journals. Okay, and we're going to get a little bit more into that as we get further in the video. So definitely find the places to practice. Okay, so now you have your resources, you have your places to practice, and now, oh, it's blurring. Do this. Okay, you have your resources, places to practice, and now we start getting down to business. Get down to business. I'm going to put that up here. Getting down to business. Getting down to business. Getting down to business. And that's basically beginning the language. Man, my spelling it. Beginning the language. Getting down to business. I think I need to grab another marker. So we're getting started now. So we have our resources, we have our places to practice, and now we're ready to get started. Now before I get started here, I should also tell you, go back up to the second thing, when you're practicing, another thing you can do. Another thing you can do is when you leave your house, you can find people to practice with outside the house. For example, if you're studying a language like Spanish, if you know any places where there are some Spanish-speaking people, like at a store or whatever, you go there and find a way to start the conversation in English first, and then ask them where they're from, and then you can start practicing language. Cause I use that. That's another one of my methodologies. I use that. You can't be afraid. Just practice what you learn. They'll be happy. So that's another opportunity you want to take advantage of. But this mainly, this is the stuff I'm teaching you today. This is stuff that's going to be used at home mainly. You use chat rooms, forums, and whatnot. And the stuff will also work when you leave home. So yeah, you want to definitely do that for extra practice. Now we're getting down to business, beginning of language. Okay, we don't know how to start a language. We don't know how to form sentences. We don't know where to start. We don't know whether to start on grammar. We don't know whether to memorize vocabulary. First of all, I need to tell you, it's sort of a combination. How can I say? You don't want to start a language focusing on grammar. That's a no-no. That's the first thing. You do not, absolutely not, want to focus on grammar at the beginning. That's just, take that off the list. Take that off the list. That's not going to work. Okay? You don't want to do that because it's going to be, it'd probably be confusing, especially if it's a complex language like, let's take, for example, Georgian. If it's a complex language like Georgian, then it's going to be very difficult, when it comes to grammar. So I would recommend memorization. Okay, now back to this phrase book here. Memorization. They didn't make these phrase books for studying grammar. We all know that, right? We all know they didn't make phrase books for studying grammar. Basically, phrase books are for memorizing certain phrases you will need in certain situations, right? We all know that. So that's why I have strong emphasis on getting phrase books, because you want to basically, at the beginning, you're going to be memorizing a lot of stuff, okay? A lot of stuff you're going to be memorizing. So grammar, do not sit there and spend 2 hours studying grammar, because it's kind of, I don't want to say it's a waste of time, but you don't want to, I look at it like this. As time goes by, it may not make sense to you in the beginning, but as time goes by, it starts making sense naturally. So if it's something grammatical that you don't understand, doesn't make any sense to you, I will advise you to memorize it. Okay, just memorize it and move on to the next objective. You don't want to waste time. You want to keep moving. Okay, this is we want to keep this up to speed. So just memorize it and then move on to the next objective. And later on, you're going to find that it's going to start making sense naturally. So you do not want to spend hours and hours studying grammar and trying to make sense of it, especially if it's something that especially if something is confusing you, it doesn't make any kind of sense. Don't spend that much time on that. Just memorize it and move on. Okay, vocabulary. That's another thing. We don't want to spend hours memorizing vocabularies. Trying to memorize 50 vocabularies. You don't want to do that. Okay, definitely don't want to do that. That's pretty much the same as grammar. You don't want to spend a lot of time memorizing vocabulary. Not to say that learning vocabulary is a bad thing, but it's kind of slowing you down. So I'm going to show you guys what you need to do. Checking on my time here. So we're getting started in the language. So what I do, normally what I do, let's show you. Actually, before I start getting into stuff in depth, I'm going to stop this video now because my time's running out. I'll be right back with the second part.